Satu.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahirabbil alamin. Allahumma shalli wa sallim ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention? The presentation is about our meeting. Honorable Professor Dr. Ahmad Muhammad, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and good morning. First of all, I would like to welcome you all to this exciting one of al-Attas library series, and today is edition number 7. Before the session begins, allow me to introduce our speaker for today. He is Associate Professor Dr. Muhammad Nasir in Naquib. Currently, he is a lecturer of ISTAC-IIUM. Associate Professor Muhammad Nasir's first venture into Malay Manuscript was when he was a PhD student at ISTAC in 2002 until 2007. He had written a paper on question and answers in Hamzah Pansui, and later in some students' Sumatra, both now published. He was trained in question language, text as, and is ISTAC by Prof. Malay. He was then appointed by Professor Syed of ISTAC to research on Malay metaphysical manuscripts available at Malaysia national level. The professor had received a grant from ISTAC to study Malay metaphysical manuscripts, so she wanted a graduate student to help her in as she wasn't here. From there, the Nassim started to see how this Malay intellectual heritage was especially after studying Islamic studies in London. The conference in Thailand in 2004, organized by Assumption University through the leadership of Fellowship Professor al-Attas, gave him a new motivation to study Malay Manuscript even more. Prof. Jawi and Naquib had encouraged him to further study Malay Manuscript in order to find ideas connected to Ibn Arabic. With that encouragement, he chose Samsudin al-Sumatrai text by Abdul Yaqin with Aqidat al-Muqtaqi as the object of his PhD under the supervision of Prof. Benjamin. His study on Malay manuscripts has taken him to Indonesia, Brunei, and of course Malaysia. In a project on Jawi manuscripts for Prof. Karim Crow, who was ISTAC's professor in 2003, he met with Ustad Syed, the influential person who popularized Jawi manuscript to the mass until his untimely death in 2017. After completing his thesis in 2008, he was taken as a staff at University Brunei Darussalam, where he was there for 4 years. In 2013, while he was Deputy Director of Islamic Science Institute Putrajaya, Bayat KPT had awarded the Nasir with a generous grant of 220K to study alternative medicine, as could be found in the Kitab General in Java. In 2017 until 2019, he was appointed as the head of the Malay Manuscript Research Center at ISTAC-IIUM, where he organized courses on philology and polychology with the help of Professor Mandana from the former head of Islamic Manuscript Association, Cambridge, UK. Since then, he has published on Malay manuscript studies in local and international journals, including Malay Literature, DPP, Oxford Journal of Islamic Studies, which published his work on Samsudin as the first ever study on Jawi manuscript in his prestigious journal, Al-Muhajir, Islamic Studies, etc. He has been teaching in the academia since 2001. So that's all. Without further ado, I would like to welcome the speaker, Syed, that legal solution.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, thank you very much to Jefferson and Ceremony for the generous introduction of my 3-year in academia and our working in Malay Manuscript study. And secondly, I'd like to welcome congrats to the lecturer and Associate Professor Mehmet. Thank you very much for coming, and students who are here today. Thank you for coming and thank you for joining the Zoom. I know it's not very easy, especially when there is a big ceremony going on outside there. I myself was caught in the euphoria of receiving the new album, since the morning, opening the TV and what's happening. So, but as they say, the show must go on. After was postponed last week. This semester has been very busy and tiring semester for me. So I hope you bear that in mind when you are looking at the slides. I had very little time to prepare the slides. I'm busy with marking papers and presentations and assignments of the students for the last week. So I was lucky enough to be able to look at some of the manuscript collection that is available at the library. And the topic for today is Malay Islamic thought in the Malay manuscript collection and setting on Naquib al-Attas library. The library itself was a special place for me because when I came back to study at ISTAC, was interviewed by Professor al-Attas. He basically told me that you have to go and work at the library in order for us to give you the scholarship. I said, okay, fine. So this was the library at the Mansara old campus, ISTAC old campus. So I was at the library for twice a week for that first semester, every week. Until the change of the administration. So we close with the library, and some of the people who are here, some of them are from that old library, like Brother Naquib, Brother Shamsul, and Brother Wan. These are all the seniors here in the library. They were there when I was the junior staff, helping putting the books on the shelf and helping them develop here and there. So the library itself is quite close, but at that moment in time when I was at the library, I could not have access to the manuscript collection that they had. So I had to go outside to access the Malay manuscript collection. And Malay manuscript collection that I had access to was the one at the National Library. I still remember going to the National Library. They did not have the center for Malay manuscripts yet. It was just the National Library which had a place for Malay manuscripts. And you could always see Professor Ismail Hussein there every day. He was alive, was going to the library every day doing his research. I didn't know who he was, so it was quite funny when I, went to see him. Anyhow, and then later on, with looking at the library, looking at collections of manuscripts here and there, even gone to London, not to see the Queen, but maybe yes, she might be the Queen in regards to, in regards to the British Library collections for Malay manuscripts. Dr. Annabelle. Might have to look at some of when I was doing my research on Kitab-Tip. So the one that you are seeing here, the manuscript is from Kitab-Tip actually. So to me, I like to think that Kitab-Tip also plays a role in regards to some aspects of Malay thought. Yes, I would say it is Islamic, even though I had a bit, pushback in regards to saying that it is Islamic in regards to Kitab-Tip, because some would not believe that it is Islamic. When I was doing it at Hussein, I was lucky enough, Prof. Asma Ismail, who is now the Musina chair at ISTAC-IIUM in Kuantan. she took my side and saying that yes, we want to look at Malay tip genre of writing to find alternative for kitab tip. At that point in time, it was 2013. 2013 where we went to Putrajaya, asking our case, etc. And Putrajaya said, okay, gave us a grant to large scale research into medicine for the B40 for Hussein. So I was doing only one aspect of that, which is alternative from kitab tip, alternative to the tip Nabawi that was offered in the Arabic text. Because as you know, the Arabic text, they will use localized ingredients for certain things which we don't use them here. But we still have the sameness like the stomach ache, etc. But over there, they use different things. Here, what is the alternative in regards to Malay manuscripts? So that was my job to look at Malay manuscripts, and we looked at collections at Arcade Negara. There's some collections there. We look at collections at Pusat Islam, also at few other places. And we found a few things, and I wrote it down in an article which was published back in 2015. So that research on kitab tip then continued with someone else being took over it because I had done a lot of the other group, and I had left Muslim at that point. Then, going into Atma, was lucky enough to be appointed as the head of the Malay Manuscript Research Section, where we could have programs on Malay manuscript. So I opened up the discussion on Malay manuscript, not only to include tasawwuf-based manuscript, but also other genres like the hikayat, kitab tip, like the politics, like the history, and we included as well polyglossy and philology courses into what was offered at the manuscript section at Atma. As a result, I continue with that now. We are under a different leadership, of course, but it is still continuing. So I'm happy in that sense that I contributed. When I was the head, we had a program. We wanted to look at different research on Malay manuscript that was available in Malaysia at the different universities. So I said, why don't we have a conference to invite everybody to come, the students to come and present what is it that they are doing in regards to studying of Malay Jawi Manuscript. And we received quite a lot of papers studying different aspects of manuscript, of course, from the angle of Malay language, linguistic, philology, etc., history. And we have Prof. Ahmad Adam to open up to give a keynote for the program. And I made a mention in this speech which I gave was that I said that all the manuscripts that we have in Jawi, in Malaysia, they are in the different collections, which have different titles and different names, etc. I said we should Romanize that so that people are not cut off from their tradition, in the sense that they know what was written in the past, and as a result of these manuscripts being Romanized. And the work of the late Syed came to mind when he popularized the writings of the old ulama of the past. And as a result, people started to discuss, and people in the academia took notice of it, and did a lot of studies on it as well. So as a result, now we have a lot of Jawi books now that has been Romanized. I wouldn't say transliterated because we don't have a transliteration system in Malay. But transliteration is only in English, where you transliterate foreign words into the English language. But in Malay, I would say Romanized. we organized the Jawi text. So the Jawi text is organized, and now we have a large selection of books in the market. Many religious books, but also we have certain hikayat that have been organized, produced by the as a result, people get to read these works. That was works that were read by our grandfathers or our fathers, old enough, when they were small. I remember a professor, I think Professor Baruddin, working in that, saying that in Penang they used to carry these books, these hikayat books everywhere for people to borrow. 1 cent, half a cent, I can't remember the exact. And so when he was young and small, he could basically, read and borrow those books that it was given. And these books were the hikayats, now that we find at the. So these books were read by the people. And although originally, of course, if you look at the development of Malay manuscripts, right? Yeah, originally these were there. I think people can see. But what I wanted to say is, as a result of from 2000, 2003, 2004, 2005 onwards, as a result of the works of many different scholars, now there seems that there is an insurgence of going to Jawi manuscripts and popularizing it, and some even use the word Malay heritage writing, to show that we had an active writing culture. Unfortunately, we did not really have an active writing culture, as you can see from the writings of people who have gone before us, people who have studied manuscript for a long time. And, but during, as Maya says in his study of the Meru Mahamusa, and Maya is quite interesting scholar, uses the approach of Walter Ong, if I'm not mistaken, in regard to the study of comparing between what is given in the oral tradition and what is given in the written tradition. And it makes this distinction very clear. That is what he says here. Malays do not like reading in the King's Day. The King's Day is, you will say, 1920s, 1930s, of the European. But then they never been everything. That's what they work within culture in which most knowledge was communicated orally, orally, and in which narratives were transmitted into watching and listening to rhapsodies, shadow plays, and recitals. Certainly not through the silent reading, which the British apparently took as self-evident standard. So he was criticizing how, as echoing what Wilson was also criticizing people like Winston, who basically said that that we are like the British in the sense that our standard of looking at literature should be the same as how we look at the Malay literature, how it developed. Whereas we had the British and the Malays had a different way of developing in regards to the reading culture of us. So, because the Ikras, another person who is also an expert on Malay manuscript, has written a long time ago. The Malay manuscripts that we possess today span a period of approximately 4,000 years. This period is marked by conspicuous linguistic changes, and we are obliged to admit that our knowledge of the language and literature only begins at the time when Islam appears to have already exerted an influence on the cultural tradition. As a result of which very little what has been passed down is immediately identifiable as of pre-Islamic origin. Even if we know that the case of a given text must considerably antedate the copy's with. So, with the coming of Islam, the writing period, the writing culture of the Malays improved, developed even more. when compared to the time of before Islam. So in the kind of historical based writings in Malay, there's always been an oral tradition. I did not translate this, is something that I wrote a long time ago. So there has always been a repeat of what is said. Originally, the hikayat was read to the people, and the people would sit down in front of the reader, and would be, kids would be running around the back, and you can imagine that. And the ladies in front would probably be eating their winter food with the lips, the sirih, and they would be running around, and then the ladies would be listening, the man would be probably, rokok daun or whatever. And then we listening to the hikayat in read, and as a result, there have been an addition to the writings of the hikayat. So the hikayats that we find, say for example, the hikayat Angkor, we find a lot of development, a lot of addition, which is based on the reading of the hikayat to the people. So apparently, there is an opposition between the hikayat and the kitab. So the hikayat, you can see, are those which are written in regards to the history, regards to epics, etc. But the kitab is specifically on Islamic kitab. Is that the former is for the study and later is to be enjoyed, recited. So the hikayat is like for enjoyment, but the kitab is specifically for teaching. So the kitab is studied very seriously, and instead is seldom tampered with as a result of that, which does not, however, mean that its contents are strictly limited to the theological or devoid of the fantastic. The kitab is exclusively Muslim, and as such, very often the translation, adaptation, or compilation from an Arabic or Persian origin. So what seems essential to the hikayat is that, in opposition to the kitab, it is primarily meant to be read and to be recited. So in the kitab journal, basically, the ustads would read in the front, and the student would take notes and would make copies of the notes. And in cases like in Aceh, the continuation of the writing of the whole kitabs is done by the students just before they leave the madrasah. After they graduated from the madrasah, they have to give back the madrasah. What was the giving back is to rewrite the kitab that they studied. So that explain why some of the manuscripts have lying inside of them. It looks like it's being written on a piece of paper that was produced in the 20th century. Yes, it is written in a piece of paper that's produced in the 20th century because it was written by the student before they left the madrasah. So, religious works within the mainly oral culture of the 19th century, Malay religious studies acquired a special position. Islamic knowledge was inspired and confirmed in written texts by the Quran rather than by the memorized tradition. So religious works were copied with considerable more precision than other works. But this is the 19th century, right? But for we are jumping here and there. This is in the 19th century. But if you look at the development in the 18th, 17th, 18th century, there's some differences, and I will explain later. And works such as the Hikayat Merah Mawaksa and the Hikayat Radhi Pasar containing the odd reference to Buddhists, who by external evidence can be proved to have existed, show all the signs of having been composed schematically and differ little from the literary romance. So other chronicles show a similar tendency to oscillate between adherence to the schemata of tradition and a concern with specifics such as description of particular events. This is the opinion of Sweeney in his writings. He has studied about the difference between the oral and the written tradition. So from the 7th to the 13th century, there existed what was elite writing that was mainly influenced by Indian literature, and the writings was in Sanskrit and in Old Malay, Palava, and included the writings that was shared in Buddhism, like is the Buddha Charita, Jatakamala, and Lalita Vistara. And this has been studied by Braginsky in his book Heritage of Malay Literature. Now, from the 13th to the 14th century, there has been a process of Malayizing the culture, the Indian culture, although it had begun for a long time, but it became much clearer with the writings of the Hikayat and the Pandawa. And writing of the text in this was formed by the oral culture and had included various aspects connected to the Hindu and the Buddha elite culture. So from the 14th until the 17th, Islam came and created a new kind of writing tradition, which contains within it some element of change from the past. As a result, Arabic language became a much stronger force, taking the place of Sanskrit. But there has been some opinions in regard to which type of Arabic, and in regards to history and the Hikayat, the Malay language that was written in Jawi that form, mainly the framework. So Arab and Persian actually came to the Nusantara through the route of the sea, and it came. If I believe it so, is from my own studies to the India and the Malay Sultanate. Say for example, in the Hikayat and of Hikayat Aceh, the existence of Malay literature at the early beginning had shown a transition from the era of the past. And from one aspect, the Malay literature that was produced were enriched with the translation of works from the Arabic and the Persian. For example, Hikayat Sultan Iskandar Zulkarnain, Hikayat Amir Hamzah, Hikayat Muhammad Hanafiah, and so on and so forth. And there's a lot of discussions within these different hikayats. But Hikayat Amir Hamzah, which originally came from India, I think when I was at the Kinokuniya bookstore a few weeks ago, I saw it as being put under South Asian literature. Hikayat Amir Hamzah was translated into English. Now, even though these hikayats were there and were influenced from Islam, the epic Sanskrit as well as the Panji stories, mentioned quite a lot by another professor, also was alive and was used by the people to tell stories to their children. Although without the aspect of Hinduism too much, right? So even though there's this connection, the different elements of Indo-Java and Arab-Persian still did not happen, but there was a certain synthesis in regards to using certain elements was used to formulate a certain understanding of the Hikayat. Example, I think, if I remember correctly, Tengku Iskandar mentioned how the Firdaus Name in Persian was used as a form for the structure of the Hikayat Aceh, if I'm not mistaken. And he actually credited the writing of the Hikayat Aceh to Syed Shamsuddin back in the 17th century. Anyhow, from the 16th until the 18th century, more connections with India, more connections with the Arab world started to happen, and as a result, Islamization as well as the influence on Malay literature came to be a lot more felt in Malay literature. So the
writings of the scholars in regards to Aqidah, in regards to Sufism, which is, Islamic thought, came to be and came to fruit and came to be read a lot by the scholars here and were written by them, producing a kind of a synthesis from the old traditional Persian or Arabic main source with their own spin on it from a Malay background, right, from a Malay background. So the writings of Hamzah as well as the writings of Syed Shamsuddin could be seen to be most the earliest complex writings on Malay Sufism, can be seen to be like a synthesis from writings of same writings in Persian as well as in Arabic. I think because of this, some people actually believe that Hamzah and Shamsuddin did not know Persian. So what they did was they just brought in from the other texts. But I would argue differently, because in order for Hamzah and Shamsuddin to be able to use these texts in Persian, they would have to know Persian in order for them to use the words and the translation which they use in their own words, in their own aspect and discussion of their own understanding of metaphysical Sufism. Now, the existence of the various of the genres, kitab, hikayat, syair, shows, Malay identity and created the identity of the Malay writer. And from the 18th to the 19th century, there was also a revitalization of Islam that slowly pushed away the synthesis that existed, the coherent existence of the different cultures was slowly being reduced. So a whole Islamic identity started to appear much more fully. And this is attributed mainly to the more close links that Malays had with the Arab world, or with the Hijaz, or with places of learning in the Arab world from the 18th and 19th century onwards. That you find the writings of the 18th and 19th century in regards to Islamic thought tend to be focused on the translation of works from Arabic only, not Persian, because they were mainly relying upon the books that they were using in the Hijaz in order to teach people in the Nusantara Islam. So certain, and they also asked, the second point, they also asked the ulama in the Hijaz whenever they had certain problems that were occurring in Southeast Asian Islam, in the Malay world. For example, in regards to the issue of the problem of wahdatul wujud, oneness of being, were asked from the ulama in Mecca, Medina, and the Hijaz to respond to it. And we have these various responses, and slowly and slowly, there's this link with the, as some say, the link with the greater Muslim world. Never really like to use that. That's the word that's used by, many people who do Islamic studies in the West. Whenever they look at Islam, it's always until, like Prof. Murad said, until the Ganges River, if I'm not mistaken. They never look at us, Southeast Asia, where we have a much more richer and much more stable understanding of Islam that has allowed us to live in a multicultural, multi-religious society compared to them, right? So, so that connection, anyhow, it exists, and that's been studied quite a lot. I think initially by Professor Azra, and before that by John Paul in his work. And Professor Azra went and studied with John Paul, and did his study, and his work has become a classic even until now, right? The late Professor Azra in Malaysia. So this can also be seen in the publication of the kitabs at certain places like in Singapore, Penang, and Malacca, 19th century, where they started to produce a lithograph of the writings of the ulama and the appointment of Sheikh Ahmad Al-Qabani as the head of the printing press in Mecca in the 20th century accelerated this even more. He was appointed by the Ottoman Sultan, right? So this made it even more, stable and more established. So now I don't want to go too much into that because that will open another sort of discussion. But then I want to look at because the topic of our discussion today is about the Islamic thought that can be found here in the collection of the library. Now, first of all, I wanted to just emphasize that Malay Islamic thought is always an amalgamation or a fusion of teachings in Arabic as well as in Persian. And I want to show this because I always have to show this, what Shamsuddin himself had said, right, in the 17th century, and the study of Shamsuddin, which is basically my book here, um, um, is from the text Hakul Yakin fi Aqidat al-Muhaqqiqin, which I got the text, from Ustaz Wan Sahir, the late Ustaz Wan Sahir, when he published it in one of his works. So, but at that point in time, nobody studied this, and the late Ustaz Wan Sahir himself, in that romanization of the text, mentioned that it's actually Arabic language, but actually it's not Arabic, it's actually Persian. It's actually Persian, which I found in my own PhD study. Anyhow, in the beginning, Shamsuddin said, surely I have seen many amongst the pious from all the righteous good people around me, who has the one to follow, the desire to follow the path of the knowers, the Arif. However, they know not Arabic and Persian language. So Shamsuddin is talking in the 17th century Aceh, and he's talking about how people do not know Arabic and Persian, but many of them want to follow the path to become a knower, an Arif. But they can only know the language of the Pasai, which is the language of people of Aceh. I have therefore compiled all the meanings and sayings in the language known to them regarding knowledge of realities, whose ibarah points towards those subtle and precise meanings beyond, and I compiled it all in a language made easy for them to memorize its contents. So, according to Shamsuddin, this is easy, yes, for them to memorize. I've done it for my PhD, and it still is a very difficult text even until today, right? So what this shows is that there is a need at that point in time, one, for people wanting to know more about the South in Aceh, and also there is a need for people to learn all these other languages if they want to know about Arabic and Persian. But as far as I know, Arabic and Persian was not taught properly, or was not taught at all in Aceh at that point in time, because we do not have the text which will support us in regards to this. Anyhow, so that he says, Shamsuddin says, they are able to understand the simile, and they are able to convey with the symbols those issues regarding the ascension to the station of the unifying knower, Muwahid Yang Arif, and in regards to the symbols which points towards the complete perfection of the perfect individual. This will be easy to untie all its knots to the hearts who are inclined towards achieving the stations, and so that they will be able to overcome the rough waves and able to achieve the many bounties. So this is why he said he wrote this book, Hakul Yakin fi Aqidat al-Muhaqqiqin, so that the people would know how to, and would be able to get some of the fruits from Arabic and from Persian. Now, um, yeah, okay, right. Now, I think I have to go into Islamic thought, right? Now, this part, I don't have the slides for it. I'm not sure whether I can show this. Um, right. Yeah. Yeah. So there is in the yeah, there is in the what Shamsuddin had said in regards to Persian language as well as Arabic language, and as I said earlier on, there has been a discussion among the scholars like Brakel and few others who said that Shamsuddin and Hamza could not have known Persian language, and it seems to be like a very big issue. But let me just say this: I've showed that in my own study that there is a connection between the regions in India as well as Southeast Asia. There's one possibility through the writings of through the records of the Portuguese in some of the they were writing who were coming to these ports, etc. And they said that in the 17th century, during the time of Sultan Iskandar Muda, during the time of Shamsuddin, the port in India, one of the ports in India, uh, they're recorded in the records of the Portuguese being used by the Sultan of Aceh to come regularly, and he has reserved a particular port for his contact with India, with that particular civilization, where he will be able to trade and etc. Maybe there's some cultural changes there because we know in India, Persian is spoken as a second language over there, apart from the local language, etc. Because of the influence of the Mongols before, Mughal before, sorry, Mughal. Yeah, well, you know that Mughal is actually a mispronunciation of the word Mongol by the Indians. That's why they call Mughal. Because they want to say Mongol, they can't say Mongol, they say Mughal, Mughal. That's how in English we change it to Mughal, right? Anyhow, that's one possibility. The other possibility is the existence of in the state of Ayutthaya in Thailand, in regards to the appointment of the Sheikhul Islam from Persia itself. Um, During the time just before the birth of Hamza Pansuri and up until during his time, mainly in the end of 16th century up to the towards the end of the 17th century. There was this appointment of the Sheikhul Islam who could speak Persian, and there is a sizable Persian community in Ayutthaya. And apparently, one of the discussion about where Hamza was born was in Shahrinau, and Shahrinau is a place in Ayutthaya. So there is that also that influence that had come to Aceh from there. This connection that had allowed Persian to be spoken, as well as a direct connection with the Ottomans themselves, where I was told by an Ottoman scholar in America that Persian is the second language or language of literature of the Ottomans in the 16th and the 17th century. So I'm not a scholar of Ottoman scholarship, but I was told this, and he gave me some reference about it, and I wrote it in my thesis. And you can read it there and you can find it. Yeah, yeah. Also, okay. Uh, okay. Okay. Right. Yeah. Okay. Right. Yeah. So in regards to Islamic thought, now in manuscript selection at the Naquib al-Attas collection of Jawi manuscripts, um, Islamic thought in general, I think you can see that when we talk about Islamic thought from an academic standpoint, we can see that it can be divided to three or four main subjects. The first part is Aqidah, Kalam, and Usuluddin. That's the first part. And the second is Falsafah, and the third Tasawwuf. But Islamic thought in regards to kalam, usulin, and akidah have to do with faith, have to do with. We don't mean by Islamic thought here what is understood as rational thought, using of utilization of reason only, but also utilization of the verses of the Quran in order to prove the existence of God, for example. So even in Aqidah, even in Kalam, as some people would say, Kalam is a rational way of thinking in Islam, but it falls under the ulum al-aqliya by some classifications. I think classification of Al-Farabi, if I'm not mistaken. But it doesn't mean that it is totally and wholly only using of reason. Because kalam has also the usage of the text or the nusus in Islam. So when we talk about Islamic thought, there is no really free, rational reason, except maybe for falsafa. But even then, there is, controversy whether falsafa is really falls under Islamic thought as its practice in the Islamic civilization. Anyhow, we don't have to talk about falsafa here because at the collection of Syed Naquib al-Attas, we don't have anything to do with falsafa. It's mainly divided, you can say, to kalam, usuluddin or akidah, and tasawuf most of all. And secondly, what we have to understand is that at this collection that we have here, which I think most of you have listened to Dr. Wan Ali's presentation. He's organizing the catalog, etc. So what I have is some ideas of what was written in regards to the Jawi manuscript, which is available online. So all of this is available online, and you can see it on the website. So unfortunately, I cannot show you the slide because it's still a work under progress. So I can only read some aspects of it to you, of what is available here. But what is available here, most of it are written before the 19th century. Almost all of the manuscripts, are not available, are not from the Patani scholars. So you hardly have uh, anything written by Syed or Tuan Minal or etc. You hardly have anything written by them, right? In the collection, but except for probably one or two. By to Muhtadi, I think they have that, and one or two other works. But a lot of it have to do with things which uh, written in regards to, for example, let's take a look at the Kalam and Usuluddin. Right? Compared to Kalam, Usuluddin, Akidah, as well as the Tasawuf collection, most of it that we have in the Syed Muhammad Naquib al-Attas library collection, most of what we have is mainly on the Tasawuf. Mainly on the Tasawuf that we have a lot. Right? Mainly on the Tasawuf that we have a lot. Because it indicates the inclination of the scholars up until the 19th century. Right? Up until the 19th century. So from here you can see that, from the 17th century up until the 19th century. I think the oldest collection that we have is the one that is written by Al-Raniri, right? The Siratul Mustaqim, but it is work on fiqh. And also I want to include another aspect of in the Islamic thought here, and that aspect is comparative religion. The aspect is comparative religion. There is some of the manuscripts that are written on comparative religion. Right? So you have on the Kalam in general, it's mainly about what was written by Syed Nuruddin Araniri is Umdatul I'tiqad, which is a text where he explains about the creation of the world, the 7 levels of the world, and how it connects to the various verses of the Quran, which he brings in to explain the existence of the world is all derived from God, And you have in general, in regards to Aqidah, you have the writings on the 20 attributes of God, or you know, the 20 attributes of God, of Allah, is known in Malay as the Sifat 20, right? Sifat 20. And Sifat 20 was written by Sanusi, a scholar in the Maghrib, if I'm not mistaken. And he had written on Sifat 20 and a few other writings of him in regards to Aqidah, which were then repeated and compiled and written and rewritten again and again, with comments upon comments upon comments in Jawi, to aid the understanding of the Malays. I remember back in 1982 when I attended the school of teaching religion, Islam. We were taught in regards to Tauhid, we were taught Sifat 20, the 20 attributes of God. Yes? And we were asked to memorize the song. Yes? Wujud, Kidam, Bako, Olafatuhu, Ilhawadis, Iyamuhu binafsihi, Wadaniyat, Udarat, Iradat, Ilmul Hayat, Sama Pasar Talam. All this, we were told to recite this every morning. Now people are told to recite the Asmaul Husna, right? But before 1982, we were told to memorize and recite the 20, attributes of God, which was taken from Sanusi's writings. So you have this in many of the writings here when it comes to Kalam and Usuluddin and Aqidah. Let me see if I can find anything else. There is also some writings about the existence of God and how it connects to the attributes of God and how it connects to the uttering of Bismillah and the subject of interpretation of Bismillah, in how Bismillah had been written in the Luh Mahfuz, and from there on they go into the different attributes of God. So it's a nice spin, or a nice interpretation of bringing in the 20 attributes and connecting it to the discussion about how Bismillah is written in the Luh Mahfuz as the first thing be written, etc. So this is there in the collection. There's also words on Risalah Masail al-Iman, which is also an interesting Risalah in regards to Iman. There's also one further aspect that I should have mentioned here in regards to the writings of these Jawi manuscripts that were written in the 18th century, 19th century. Some of the Jawi manuscripts, they are formed in the form of questions. People always say Malay don't ask questions. But when you look at the writings of the Risalah, many in regards to the teaching of religion, it was all based upon question, answer, question, answer, question, answer. Yes? Bila ditanya apakah itu iman? Iman itulah tasdik qalbi dan sebagainya. Bila ditanya, when he has asked what is iman? Yes, iman is this. So there's always this question answer. Question answer that is relevant to the people there. So whenever we look at the manuscripts, and most of the time the manuscripts don't have the name of the writer. Most of the time there's no name of the writer. Yesterday I was looking at the manuscript of Aqidatul-Awwam. Aqidatul-Awwam is a manuscript written by Syed Marzuki that has been commented upon by also a very famous Malay scholar but of 19th century in Mecca, whose name was Nawawi Banten. Nawawi Banten is from the island of Banten, And he wrote all his books, unfortunately, in Arabic, but he was domiciled in Mecca. Now he says, I want to connect this to why Malay manuscript don't have name. Why Malay manuscript don't have name. He said towards the end of the, of the commentary on the Aqidah-ul-Awam. Aqidah-ul-Awam is a collection of poems about the Aqidah written by Marzuki. So he gave a sharah on the poem. And he says at the end, Marzuki mentioned his name. Marzuki mentioned his name. Right? Because at the end, Marzuki said, this is the poem that I have written, Marzuki, etc. And Syed Nawawi, he said, mentioning the name of the writer of Islamic manuscript of this writing is not wajib, but it is sunnah to mention the name. So maybe this is why most of our scholars who write in Malay never wrote the name. But if you are quoting from someone, Syed Nawawi said it is wajib for you to say who you are quoting from. But if you are writing it yourself, it's not wajib for you to write your name. Right? So this is, I think, was interesting, which I just found yesterday in the sharah of Aqidatul-Awam, which is called Nurul Zalam. Nurul Zulam. Nurul Zulam is sharah Aqidatul-Awam. But that manuscript, that book is not here. It's not here in the library. It's here in the library, but it's not here in the collection of the manuscript that we have. So in the collection, you have many works like, there's also many works like Risalah Masail Tauhid, the problem in regards to the issues of Tauhid. Again, no name of the author. Again, most of it don't have the names of the author. So it was very, very difficult to find names of the author, I think because of that. But I think later on, we can, basically find out who the author is, because sometimes other scholars mention it's written by someone. Okay, so as a result, we get to know this. So in general, we have writings on various aspects of the Aqidah, but they are not as many as the ones on aspects of Tasawwuf, right? Aspect of Tasawwuf. So you have writings by, as mentioned just now, Raneri, and you have writing again by another Achenese scholar, Muhammad Zain Fakih Jaluddin Al-Aceh, also 17th century, 18th century, early 18th century Achenese scholars. He had written about Bidayatul Hidayah, and Bidayatul Hidayah is about a commentary of the 20 attributes of God, 20 attributes of God which he got from Sanusi, and this became the beginner level. Bidayatul Hidayah became the beginner level for anyone in the pondok to study in regards to the study of Aqidah before they go further up to the intermediate or the advanced level and study the Jawharat Tauhid. Jawharat Tauhid is a much more complex and kalam work, but we don't have this. Jawharat Tauhid, we don't have it here. But the Bidayatul Hidayah, we have it here in the library. So you have quite a few, Raniri, and there's also a few manuscripts which have not been republished again, which remains in the manuscript form, like the Shifa al-Qulub by Nuruddin Araniri, which has a book on connection between Tawheed, the Shahada, La ilaha illallah, and how it connects to the existence of God, and from there how it can, purify and stabilize the heart. I think Shifa al-Qulub has never been published. I've not seen the Romanized version of it. So there are opportunities at the library here that we have certain manuscripts which have not been published, which could be taken by people to publish with, of course, permission from the library. It will enrich more of our, understanding of the past. I think I've said a lot already about about Tawheed, and I want to talk just a bit more about well, tasawuf. Well, there's a lot on tasawuf. I can't go through all of it here, but on tasawuf, of course, you have the most famous writings of tasawuf at this library, which is available only here in Southeast Asian region, the Lataif al-Asrar of Aradiri. But that has been studied by Prof. Zaini of Cassis. That has been studied with the help of Professor Attas as a supervisor. That is considered to be one of the most interesting writings of Raniri. It was quite big. And then you have the writings of, yes, you have one by Syed al-Fatani of the 19th century. Is Minhaj al-Abidin ila Jannat Rabbil Alamin. This has been published in Hajj Abidin of Syed Fatani, which is relying on the writings of Imam Abu Hamid al-Ghazali, which is called Hajj Abidin. Anyhow, most of the writings of Tasawwuf that are available at this library are interesting vignettes of writings or parts of writings from metaphysical Sufism. And you have a discussion about, most importantly by Raniri just now, which I mentioned, Lataif Asrar. Also, there's another one called Asraruddin, Bayan Ma'rifat Tawhid. Also there's a few other writings like by Raniri, the Hadaik, Hadikatul Yakin, and few others. The number of the Tasawwuf manuscript, there's just a lot. You have a few by Syekh Abdul Rauf. A few have been published and been studied, but a few others have not. A few others have not. So those who are interested in further studying this enigmatic figure, Syekh Abdul Rauf, you can look at his Asrar al-Millah, which has never been studied before. And then you have also another of his work, but has been studied a lot by people, Kifayatul Muhtajin. Kifayatul Muhtajin has been studied quite a lot in UKM, if I'm not mistaken. As I said earlier on, I compiled a list of studies of what people have done in regards to the Jawi manuscripts in the different universities that we find in Malaysia. But we really need to have a central place where anybody studying on Jawi manuscripts should really insert it there, or should really inform the particular central place. And I think last time when I was at Atma, I suggested this, and apparently DBP is trying to work on this and doing something along those lines. I don't know, I've not heard from them since that first meeting where I suggested it. I suggested it in the first meeting, and the second meeting, I was not invited anymore. Maybe the idea is good enough. Go forward. So, there's still a lot that has not been properly studied. But unfortunately, there's no name of the writer. Like some interesting manuscript like Asrarul Salah. What is the secret of prayer, the Zahir and the Batin. Now, this goes back to the 19th century, also a text which goes back to the 19th century. Now, why do we say 19th century? Is because of the watermark on the manuscript itself. So this has not been published, and it is an interesting text, but nobody has studied it. So still a lot that has not been studied, especially in regards to Sufism manuscript, Tasawwuf manuscript. You also have one manuscript here by Sheikh Yusuf al-Makassari, but doesn't mention the title of the manuscript. And you have by Abdul Rauf Bantani, there's also another scholar from Isle of Bantan, and then you have, of course, Abdul Rauf Singkel, or sometimes known as Abdul Rauf Anak Mansuri, his book called Bayan Tajalli, which is another book on metaphysical Sufism. That has been studied, Bayan Tajalli. And then, of course, you have the most famous Syed Abdul Samad, Syed Abdul Samad Palembang in their collection. You have this quite a few of his Siyarus Salikin, which he brought from, he took and compiled from the Ihya of Al-Ghazali, but he put in his own understanding from the different schools, teachers that he had. It's quite interesting text, but it's no more Ihya Ulumuddin. He was very, very humble enough to say that, I've just taken from Ihya. But when you read it, you know that this is not, some of it is not for Ihya, many of it is not for Ihya. But I think there's been a study on that already, I'm not mistaken, been published by Yayasan Karyawan last year, I think. There's Karya Agong of the Siyar, into 4 volumes of the Siyar. I hope the library can get a copy of that and and enrich our selections here. It's quite a lot, I can't talk too much about this. Then I have to go into the last part, which I want to mention here in regards to aspect of Islamic thought. It is the manuscript on comparative manuscripts. I call it comparative religion and the Kitab Tip, which is also available in the collection here. So first of all is of course Tibyan fi Ma'rifatil Adiyan by Sheikh Nuruddin Araniri, and included in this discussion also is his the creation of the earth and of the skies, ba'da khalqis samawati wal ard, which is subject of Tawheed. And in the Tibyan, he talks about the different groups in Islam. And you have to remember that this comes in the 17th century. So from the 17th century, the Malays were taught that, there are other mazhabs in Islam. There are other different groups of theological tendencies in Islam, like the Jahmiyah, like the Jabariyah, like the Ash'ariyah, like the Mu'tazilah, etc. These are all mentioned in Tibyan fi Ma'rifatil Adiyan. And also the different religion that was in India, because Araniri came from India. So he also explained about Hinduism, a bit on Hinduism, different other groups that were there in India as well in his book. So from the 17th century, the Malays already had the idea of there are other people who have different point of view from us, not only about who look like us, but who are Islam, but they are different, totally different groups from us. There's also a discussion about the Shia as well, which was brought in by Sheikh Nuruddin Al-Aniri in that Tibyan fi Ma'rifatil Adiyan, and why they are different from the Ahlus-Sunnah wal Jama'ah. I remember when I was doing a critical edition of the Fathul Mubin Al-Mulhidin of Sheikh Nuruddin Araniri. I was reading it until I think folio number 32, and suddenly it switched into the different religions. I said, what is this? This is a different story from what he's talking about. We're talking about Wujudia, this. Suddenly he talks about, in India there's this group called the Hindu, etc. And I said, what is this? Then I found out later that the manuscript that was available in DBP is it's not complete. It somehow is fused together with another manuscript of Raneri called the Tibyan. So that's how I found out the one in DBP is not complete. That particular manuscript number. Very interesting because that manuscript was worked on by the late Naquib Iskandar, who was in Holland. He didn't mention this in his writings, in his notes. Anyhow, there's also another interesting thing here in the collection of Islamic thought is the Kitab Takbir Mimpi. That's kitab takbir mimpi, yes. So if you are, interested in takbir mimpi in Malay, you should take a look and, compare with the one that we have in the Arabic tradition by Ibn Sirin, right? Ibn Sirin. You can compare and see, is there any some additions that, some Malay dreams differently from the Arabs? Something along those lines. It'd be interesting to see. And also there's a text called Hakikat Makhluk and Alam. The reality of creation and the world, right? It is a conversation between an individual with the prophet on creation, living in the seven layers of the earth and the existence of the world. And the text is complete, right? So it's about a person who came to the prophet and talked about about these issues. So there's also here under this collection of this collection here. And then there's also the kitab tip, one or two kitab tip in regards to how to make the azimat, and also some prescription for, of course, high temperature and stomach ache for children, some of the prescription. And of course, you have astrology, which is called ilmu tilik, and then you have the ilmu firasat. And the ilmu firasat is something that is also accepted by Nuruddin Raniri. It's mentioned as part of the Bustan Sanatin, ilmu firasat. And ilmu firasat, I think few of us know also, is accepted by many Muslim scholars, the least of which would be Fakhruddin Ar-Razi, who wrote a book on the Kitab Ilmu Firasat. So in general, we can see that the collection at Syed Muhammad Naquib al-Attas Jawi collection is interesting and has certain interesting features, which unfortunately I did not have the chance to compare this with the ones in National Library. But just looking at the titles, some of the titles which I mentioned just now, I've not seen it at the National Library collection. Maybe there is, but I've not seen it. I've not seen it. And secondly is there are these writings which I mentioned just now have not been Romanized. It would be interesting for it to be Romanized and for it to be studied because, as I said, this is part of Malay heritage and Malay thought of 16th, 17th, and 18th century, which somehow come through to our culture up until today. People amongst the Malays, we still believe in some of these ideas become part of, kata orang tua, saying of the people who are elders in the society. And I hope that with this presentation, you'll be able to get some ideas about what is available here, and you make your way to at least to the library website to look at the manuscript which is available online, and you have to congratulate the team here that is doing this, led by Abang Wan and Shamsul, few others, Visa, etc., Sister Visa, and a few others as well, which I don't remember the name. We have to congratulate them for making a good job for putting it all online and available to us that we are able to see. Now, I do not look at manuscripts straight. I just look at it from the screen, because by looking at the screen, we'll be able to enlarge it, be able to see it clearly. Yes. So I hope this talk will entice you to look at some of the manuscripts that is available on the website. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you, Doctor, for the informative and very interesting talk. And all right, ladies and gentlemen, now we come to the question and answer session. Before asking question, please mention your name and where you are from. For those who participate in this session through online, you may be type your question through the chat box provided. I will read the question.
Prof, thank you very much for your kind presentation about this manuscript collection over here. My question is about the languages. You emphasize many times this Persian, especially Persian language in Arabic, not known in Aceh. But we know that since 12th century onwards, forget the few centuries before this, Samudra Pasai, well-established state, and scholars, travelers visiting over here. And I mean, there must have been some sort of engagement with these languages throughout these individuals. When we visit this 14th, 15th centuries, there are some Arab scholars visited Aceh, they taught, and a few of them came back to their home country, studying more, let's say tasawwuf and some other things, and came back to Aceh again, enlightened the people over there. So this Brekel's idea that Shamsuddin Sumatwani, Muzaffar did not know Bahasa Persia does not sound much meaningful. So what's your opinion? I mean, since Samudra Pasaya until the 16th century, the Aceh Darussalam or Sultanate of Aceh Darussalam, there must have been some sort of development. This is the first question. Second one is about Sanusi's work. I mean, Sanusi family, as far as I remember, emerged in the 19th century in Libya, contemporary nation state. But Al-Ashi, you mentioned very much in his scholar, Muhammad Zain Baqi Al-Ashi. He made a sharah, the work of Sifat 20. I mean, the chronology of these two events, I mean, is it okay or some problem? And the third one is last one. Islamic thought, you critically approach this concept. Any suggestion, not Islamic thought of this collection, but some other names? Thank you very much.
Um, I will read one question from Zoom, and later you answer all the question. Zoom. This one from Zoom, from Masdi Mizan. Salam, Doctor. My first question, since Al-Ranari stands in Wahdatul Shub against Mansuri Wahdatul Wujud, did Ranari embrace Al-Ash'ariyah school of Aqidah? My second question, is it any possibility influence of Batiniyah of Shia, Ismailiyah in Malay manuscript since present of few tradition related to them? And one question from YouTube, brother. From YouTube. I read it. What was the synthesis of Islamic thought that took place in Hijaz in the 18th century? Who was responsible for the idea and why? This one from Rizwan Sazali.
Yeah, a lot of questions here. Thank you very much to Associate Professor Mehmet for asking them. I think I agree with you, Dr. Mehmet. Yes, it's impossible for there not being anybody or any schools teaching Persian or the influence of Persian and Arabic since the beginning of the Aceh Kingdom. There must be some teaching of the language or whatever. But the thing is, Shamsuddin mentioned in the introduction of his
manuscript, and that manuscript was written in 1611 or 1612. Shamsuddin was the Sheikhul Islam of Aceh, and he mentioned that people did not know Arabic and Persian. So I don't know, you can take it what it is. Maybe he's finding justification for his writing. I don't know, right? Secondly, in regards to Sanusi, I think you have a question about Sanusi. Yes, Sanusi, the Sanusi that we're talking about is the Sanusi of the writer of the Aqidah Sugra and the Aqidah Al-Kubra, who died in 1490. Yeah, 1490. So, and Sheikh Zain Baqi al-Aceh, who came later in the 17th century, used that text. Not only him, of course, others as well. And then your last question about Islamic thought, I'm not sure. I think I'm not sure about your question. What is it actually about Islamic thought? When I was at ISTAC before, in the past, Islamic thought was, kalam, tasawuf, and you know, and falsafa. So that was Islamic thought. Anyhow, I think it all depends on the meaning of the word and how the scholar use it, I guess. And here, for the sake of easiness of looking at, 50 to 100 manuscripts, I use the easy way out in dividing it along those lines. I hope you don't mind. Right. And then the question on Zoom. Oh, well, this is a long question. Since Araniri stands in Wahdatul Shuhud against Fansuri Wahdatul Wujud, did Araniri embrace Ash'ira school of Aqidah? Yeah. I've not looked at Araniri's writing on the Aqidah, but what is the Ash'ira school? First of all, the Ash'ira school of Aqidah, I would say most scholars who follow Shafi'i school of law, and most scholars who follow the teachings of Sanusi, the 20 attributes of Sanusi, they were from the Ash'ira school of Aqidah. So whether Raniri followed those things, I'm not sure his other writings on Aqidah, because I've not seen them, but in his Fathul Mubin, he did mention about the Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, but he does not mention about the Ash'ira school at all, and he did not refer to Sanusi, neither did he refer to the Jawhar Tawheed, or by a scholar also followed by the Ash'ira school. Now, my second question, is it any possibility influence of Batiniyah or Shia Ismailiyah? Oh yeah, before that. Now, there's this idea that Raniri, he followed Wahdatul Shuhud against Wahdatul Wujud. But in my study of the Fathul Mubin, as well as my latest article, which just came out in December 2023, is available on my Google Scholar. If you look at my Google Scholar, you can find the article there, 2023. I found many similarities between the teachings of Ar-Raniri himself with the teachings of Ibn Arabi. Now, I will not say either Wahdatul Shuhud or Wahdatul Wujud. I think the question is still open. So it's not a done case to say that Ar-Raniri, he believed Wahdatul Shuhud, so Fansuri was Wahdatul Wujud, so they are against each other. No. Ar-Raniri, in his discussion of the problems with the Wujudiyah, Mulhidah, those people who follow Shamsuddin and Hamzah, he said their understanding of Wahdatul Wujud itself is wrong. So he's arguing for Wahdatul Wujud also. So to say that, it's Wahdatul Shuhud, so that's why it's different from Fansuri, because Fansuri called for Wahdatul Wujud, I think it's very simplistic, and I think it goes back to the earliest writings on the conflict by few people in the past. It influence how we look at the problem. Anyhow, now going to your second question, Is there any possibility influence of Batiniya or Shia Ismailiyah in Malay manuscript, since presence of few tradition related to them? I'm not sure there is a tradition that is related to them. Oh, which tradition do you mean? Batiniya and Shia Ismailiyah, which part? I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that, so I will not respond on that. I don't know. So the second question is from YouTube. What was the synthesis of Islamic thought that took place in the Hijaz, the 18th century? Who was responsible for the idea and why? This is one of my students asking this. So you could ask outside whether they want. What was the synthesis of Islamic thought that took place in the Hijaz 18th century? I don't know what is it on which part of Islamic thought. As I said just now, which part are you talking about? Are you talking about the Aqidah or are you talking about Tasawwuf? For one, what is clear to us is that in regards to Tasawwuf, there was a shift between what was taught by Kushashi and to his student Ibrahim Qurani. There's been a change into the emphasis more into the akhlaq aspect of tasawwuf, lesser on the existential and fantastical aspect of fana and seeing God at the high level and all this high metaphysical stuff. But Ibrahim Qurani brought it down to the discussion of tasawwuf to become more on ethics. More on ethics as following Al-Ghazali in his Ihya Ulumuddin. This has led to certain scholars in Indonesia like Azra and Oman Fatur Rahman to label this as Neo-Sufism. Neo-Sufism, which is a Neo-Sufism after the reign of Ibn Arabi Sufism for a long time. But maybe that's a response to you, Brother Rizwan. Thank you for asking.
Any question from here?
Thank you, Dr. Nazim. Very well-informed narrative of the production of manuscripts here, and based on your experience and work, the galaxy of manuscripts available to us. You mentioned about Romanizing the scripts and not transliteration. That's one. But it's important to Romanize all these manuscripts. If not, will be hidden and there's no access. All in all languages, not only Malay manuscripts, but also manuscripts in other languages. Second is that it's quite annoying when you see forum or seminars with the title Lidah Misteri Manuscript Melayu. The thing is that we have not appropriated the collection of manuscripts in Malaysia. In the UK, for example, you can see an annotated list of all manuscripts in UK institutions. You don't have it in Malaysia. I have mentioned this to people. I think that it's important for this library to initiate, not only have a list and put it in the, behind the counter or whatever, but a book. Not, see, digitalization is one thing. You can have it in the portal or whatever. But to publish it as a book gives it another status. If DDP, Pusatanga, Archives, whatever, ATMA don't have it, we must have it. It's within our jurisdiction, it's within our our liberty. All the manuscripts in al-Attas library should be annotated, list, published, and from there circulated throughout the world, so that we know, at least we know the existence of the manuscript and we can call people to come. And this also would be a start for all manuscripts in Malaysia, in universities and institutes, to be published, multi-volume, annotated throughout. So that's
very, very good suggestion. I remember when I was the head of the manuscript section at ATMA, we continued the work of Datuk, sorry, Datuk, I can't remember the name now. Datuk, who was the director of National Library. Yes, Datuk Zawiyah. Datuk Zawiyah, she started the institute, the section of manuscript. So she went to the north of Malaysia to look at all the places that have manuscripts. You can't imagine all these places has manuscript, but no record. So we went to the south. We went to Johor. Also same problem. We don't have the list. So we did the list ourselves. And it's there in Atma. But, as you said, there has to be a proper body museum, not support, whatever. But if, the library here can do it will be great contribution to the field. And again, as I said just now, for the PhD studies, even the students who are doing their PhD, they will have to know which method has been studied, which has not been studied. If not, they keep studying the same thing. So you can't uncover how many times have been studied by people.
Studies also, well, that's another one.
Yeah. So we wanted Putrajaya to do that, then DBP took over. I don't know what happened. So, but I have released anyhow up until 2018, 2019. I have released. But after that, I stopped. Then, then you look at the list, I made a chart with the title of the manuscript and which university I studied it. All the university in Malaysia. So you can find Sejarah Melayu, number 1, Ikai Artois, number 2. A lot of people have studied. A lot of people, I can say more than 20. But what aspect do they study? Almost the same. Why do you have to study the same hikayat over and over and over again? Oh yeah, the third one, of course, Tufatul Nafis. Two famous one. But what about the others? We have a lot more. Who's going to study them? But it's because we don't have that record. We just go to the most popular. And the most popular, Agwa, Melayu. Melayu, Agwa. Okay, Merong Mahawangsa. But Merong Mahawangsa already done. By Maya, and that has been translated also in Malay. Yeah. So we need a proper approach. So I was fighting for at pusat, but nobody listened to me.
Yeah, because this the geography of manuscript title and so prominent here, and the work that you say works that you done. Once they're published, they then an authority. So we have to develop an authoritative publication of the sources, so that it will be definitely what is that and what there is in Malaysia. So if ISTAC were to do it, then hopefully others will follow, and hopefully there will be a national register or extra of manuscripts. You do a bit.
Any question? So for your information, in this library, we do digitize all the manuscripts, Malay manuscripts, and successfully digitize all of them, and we publish in the IIUM the manuscript full text. You can get the full text in that place. IIUM digital manuscripts. So I think there's no question. So we have come to the end part of our presentation. We would like to say thanks again to our speaker, Dr. Nasrin, for the informative and interesting talk, and to all audience for your active participation. Thank you so much. And hopefully the session today will be beneficial for everybody. Thank you so much again, and we end this session with the Tasbih Barakah Surah Al-Asr. Assalamualaikum. Thank you.